Okay, so let's get to the final leg of this journey. The last piece of the circle is the Duffey Lake Road. We always like to say that it starts basically in Lillooet and goes down to Mount Currie. Before we hosted the Winter Olympics, the road was a little bit more adventurous, shall we say? You had to pay attention for frost heaves, fallaways, sloughs, all kinds of things. Even trees could be found on the road at times. And of course there's always the wildlife. This area abounds with deer, bear, mountain sheep, wolf, coyote. It truly is, even today, a hunter's paradise. Today, though, it's definitely a rider's paradise. The weather is darn near perfect. We can see rain in the distance. We're not quite sure whether we're going to get rained on or not. There's so many twists and turns on this road, so you might be looking down a valley and it says, oh, it's going to be clear. You approach the valley and you turn right and you go down an entire different one and you get drenched. So we've learned not to take anything for granted. Leave the group for a little while and run the Duffey on his own, and that would have worked great, but his battery ran out about 35 minutes from the end of the road. So 3 days later, a group of guys went back up and they filmed the rest of it for us. So we do have the Duffey from Lillooet all the way into Mount Currie, so you will get to see all of the road. Although that's not really true, because I had to edit out almost 35 minutes of the road, or else the video you'd be sitting here watching would have been almost 50 minutes long, and I know none of you'll sit through one of mine that long. But I tell you, this road is as good as riding the Dragon's Tail. Even though I've never ridden it, I've heard from people who've driven that road several times that they enjoy this one more. I think that's strictly because of the numbers now. The Dragon is just overridden by thousands of riders on a weekly basis. This is more like riding through to the sun, I believe that the road is called. It's a high elevation road. It takes you through a couple of different canyons and valleys. The curves are pretty cool too. And no, we haven't. BC has some rather strict road safety rules about speed, so if you get caught abusing them now, they just take your bike away for a while. So he may be going a little quick, but he's not going a lot quick, and a lot quick is what gets you in trouble. This is the legendary hairpin, and it is a first gear turn, especially if you're coming the other direction. The problem with this side of the road, you can see all the hill to our right. It can slough away, and you can come around the corner and there'll be just ball bearings all over the road. So you do have to be paying attention. You can't be looking at the scenery, which is really quite a shame. The scenery is spectacular. But having said that, that is why we run the cameras, so that we can record all of this. Yes, those rain clouds are in the distance, but coming up we're going to go into the valley to our right here. Not the one that looks like we're going to go up there. We're going to go into this one here as we come around the corner. There are days that you can go from, well, today as a matter of fact, we went from 25-degree weather in Cache Creek to 20-degree weather in Lillooet. Over the summit here it dropped to about 10 for about 4 or 5 minutes, and then as we came back down into the sunshine it started warming up again. But like I say, the day is virtually perfect. It's not stinking hot, and it can be, and it's not rainy, which it can be. We've all encountered rain on this road at least once in our lives if you've driven it more than once. If you've driven it twice, you were lucky if you got 2 dry runs. This is sort of the new section of the road now. Nice big concrete bridges, wide turns, surface is good. You can see a long way. It's really quite a delight to drive. Some of the old edges were a little tricky and still are. As we drive along here, you'll notice dark pavement in a couple of spots right out on the edge. Those are those slough marks that I've told you about. We get frost heaves down the middle of the road and things like that. But the most surprising ones are, I feel, are the sloughaways. You'll come around a corner and there might not be part of the roadway. It's just gone completely. Or, as I said before, there's one right there. That was a slough mark. Right? One day it just wasn't there. So that can happen at any time. You could have driven up in the morning and had lunch at Lillooet and turned around with your buddies, refueled at the gas station, and then started down the road. And it was perfect when you came up, but it isn't now. It's a great road, though. We all love it. The Duffey is one of those things that you have to be able to say as a motorcyclist in Vancouver. In the old days, the surface made it a lot more technical and the weather made it a lot more tricky to run. But now any driver paying attention can run the road safely and have a good time. The sport bike guys like to come out and twist the little throttle they have and scoot through these corners and the straightaways. And for the most part, everybody goes home and is happy. Occasionally, either the police or the road get them. It's unfortunate. We usually lose a couple a year on this road. Just at a bridge. Usually it's at bridges. And he said to me that he never actually got rained on. It was that the road got wet in front of him. When we drove through about 15 minutes later, the road was perfectly dry again, and we did get rained on in places that he didn't encounter anything. This bridge is notorious. That little right-hand entry there, the guys will lean into it a little tight, touch a handlebar on the bridge railing, and spin into the traffic or go into the other side. So, you know, it's just a stupid place to speed. Photography heaven down through here. And as I say, I've removed a lot of footage simply because I couldn't leave it all in or we'd all be here forever. This river is gorgeous and just beautiful. The mist you can see coming up off the road, it's getting so hot so quick. And as I say, when we got to it about 10 minutes later, the road was virtually dry. And you can see they put the road wherever they were able to. At this point, there's barely enough room at the bottom of the canyon for the river and the road. I'm sure at high runoff, there might not be enough room sometimes. I've never encountered a river over the edge of the road here. Don't know whether anyone has. But I know we do get avalanches over the road, in some places, almost all year round. Except for this year, it's been so hot that we lost all the snow. But it really is a great road to ride. The bikes love to carve through the corners. They love to accelerate. It is a very difficult road not to speed on. As you can see, there's not very many cars on the road. It's not a place where you encounter a lot of traffic, and when you do, you tend to get past them fairly quickly. Motorhomes will pull over and let motorcyclists go by. But I mean, look at the colors. The bright emerald green. And this is how the road gets its name, actually. Because we're coming up on Duffey Lake. Hence, the Duffey Road. It's a very cold, glacier-fed lake. Not the sort of thing that you see a lot of people swimming in. I mean, people do, but not very many. They'll canoe, they'll fish, they'll kayak, but not many swim. But it's a very beautiful, very picturesque place. The mountains ring around you. It really is nice. The air smells fresh up here. A lot of tar snakes they've started marking this year, and have to be careful. After they wear off, they're alright, but in the beginning, the first couple of days are pretty terrifying. As you can see, they've made a fairly new, improved run. Oh, here we go. We picked up the boys from the second trip. They came out because the other run. So, this is 3 days later, this finishing bit. I was supposed to go. Unfortunately, my back was giving me an issue. So, I begged off. Unfortunately, this corner right here, please pay attention to it. It has scored many people. Unfortunately, most of them fatalities. It's a very simple-looking corner, and the experts all agree it shouldn't be that high a risk, and for some reason, it goes way out of its way and scores way too many people. So if you drive the road, all I'm saying is really pay it some respect and you'll have a great time. Duffey Lake is about the middle of the road. So at this point you have one more little rise to climb over, and then you're pretty much on a downhill slope for the last 10 kilometers. One of the more common smells near the bottom is burnt brakes. The motorhomes will run their brakes out, so, you know, it's a good thing to use your gearbox. We recommend it to our riders that they juggle back and forth, simply to give it a chance to cool down. But the road doesn't require you to slow down that much, except for a couple of places, and you'll see it. This is why people compare the road to the tail of the dragon, is this portion. It gets very windy through the forest around little lakes and swamps and this kind of stuff, and then as it drops over the edge into Mount Curry down on the Lillooet River, the switchbacks get very tight back to back, and this is why people compare it to driving the tail of the dragon. I've never driven the tail of the dragon, so I can't tell you whether or not they are similar. But I can tell you that this is a really fun road. And I didn't want to chop any of this out. So as we got to the end, I decided that I would just ramp the speed up as far as the video editor would allow me to go. And it becomes a roller coaster. So if you don't like roller coasters, you might want to get out of line now. So you finally come down to the Lillooet River and head out to Mount Curry. But that's pretty much a common road. So now you've driven, or at least looked at, the Duffey Lake Road.